Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching this Sunday night pre-debate edition of The Factor. A lot going on. Is the presidential race crushing the spirit of you, the American public? That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. No matter who wins the White House, tens of millions of voters will be angry. The Trump audio tape scandal is yet another tawdry display in a campaign full of them. So, there will be no coming together after the vote. Bitterness will rule. Both Trump and Clinton have polarized the country, and the division is vast. Seems every day there's more depressing political news. It's almost high noon daily. For example, unless Donald Trump can marginalize the vulgar tape exposure in tonight's debate, he will likely lose the election. Mr. Trump must somehow redeem himself in 90 minutes, a tough challenge to say the least, because he's essentially alone. If any public person defends Trump, they will be branded as female haters by the media. That's why you're seeing so many Republicans bailing on Mr. Trump. As for the candidate himself, pointing out past dubious behavior on the part of the Clintons will not be enough. He must persuade the voters that he is worthy of the top job, not that his opponent is not worthy. The presidential campaign has been horrendous. Both political parties have enormous problems, and those are reflected by the candidates. Think back to JFK, Ronald Reagan, Harry Truman, Bush the Elder. These were men who engendered respect. It is true that the ideological press and the instantaneous presence of social media make it almost impossible for candidates these days to retain positive images or to survive big mistakes. The constant pounding Clinton and Trump receive has diminished both of them in front of the folks. Every misstep, every character flaw becomes a Times Square billboard. In my lifetime, I've never seen political hatred like this. Result, few Americans feel good about the presidential election. Talking Points now believes many Americans will sit the vote out, their spirits crushed by the nastiness of it all. As for tonight, it is Trump's last chance to stop the bleeding. If he does not, Secretary Clinton will win. And that's a memo. Now for the top story reaction. Joining us from St. Louis, the site of tonight's debate, Annie Linsky, political reporter for the Boston Globe, and from Washington, Bob Cusick, editor of The Hill magazine. Now, Mr. Cusick, right this moment, Mr. Trump is holding a press conference with some of the women who allege that Bill Clinton abused them, raped them, whatever it may be. It is clear, as Krauthammer just reported, that Mr. Trump is not going to go out quietly, that he's going to turn accusations against him into accusations that Hillary Clinton aided and abetted horrendous conduct. In your opinion, Mr. Cusick, is that going to be effective this evening?
No, Bill, I don't think so. I agree with your talking points. I think people are tired of the negativity. They want to be uplifted. Trump has a lot of areas he can talk about. Policy, he can talk about the FBI email scandal. He can talk about ISIS. I think bringing up these women, especially in this format, that is not going to get him more votes, Bill.
All right, but Mr. Cusick, let's be fair. He's going to get pounded by the moderators and by Hillary Clinton. So how would he defend himself other than throwing himself on the mercy of the court, which I assume he'll do and issue another apology. But if he continues, doesn't he have to have this as a defense to fall back on?
I don't think so. I think his actions had nothing to do with Bill Clinton, and he just needs to say, I apologize, be very contrite. We haven't seen that yet because he apologizes but has a but. But Bill Clinton did this and that. No, you just have to have a blanket apology and then say, let's talk about the issues that people really care about, X, Y, and Z.
All right. Ms. Linsky, how do you see it?
Yeah, I really agree with your talking point that this is going to cause people to just want to stay home, particularly those female Republicans who Trump so desperately needs if he wanted to add to the numbers of people supporting him and voting for him on Election Day. And, you know, like you said, watching that video was just abhorrent, and a sort of a non-apology added to it early Saturday morning. And to have this press conference, I mean, let's remember, Hillary Clinton was never more popular than when those Monica Lewinsky allegations were being made. This is the type of thing that humanizes her and makes the country feel sorry for her. So Trump's play here is sort of, it's not making a lot of strategic political sense, and it's not doing what he needs to do to get female voters on his side to vote for him.
Now, do you believe, Mr. Cusack, that the American public, you know, we're not talking about the people who are going to vote for Hillary Clinton who despise Donald Trump. We're not talking about the media. They're going to hate Trump no matter what. But the undecided people, the ones that aren't really in either camp, they don't like either of them. Do you think they'd forgive Donald Trump for this?
I think it depends on his performance tonight, Bill. I think it's late in the game. He's got to hit a home run. If he does not hit a home run tonight, there's going to be more Republicans who abandon his bandwagon. They're really concerned, the ones I talked to, about the control of the Senate and even control of the House, though it's likely Republicans will control the House.
Sure. I mean, you're looking at something that if the Republican candidate gets thumped and loses 40 out of 50 states, it's inevitable that the party will suffer. But I
mean, he needs a grand slam, I would say.
Well,
more
yeah,
than a home run tonight.
We can say home run, grand slam, all of that. But it's the people watching that are going to make that decision, not the pinheads like, well, not you two, but me. All right. I mean, I can say it's a home run or whatever, but that doesn't matter. It's the people at home. Are they going to forgive Donald Trump or not? And the other question, Ms. Linsky, is the loathing for Hillary Clinton, and let's face it, it's there.
There is.
All right,
it's
a popular Democratic candidate. A popular Democratic candidate, it wouldn't be a race right now. It wouldn't be a race.
Sure,
all right?
sure. Oh,
so
absolutely
is the loathing for her going to override the tape?
I mean, I don't think so. In this particular case, that tape, for a woman to watch that tape, it hits so viscerally, particularly when you see him talking about that woman and then going out and showing a completely different face to her. I think that doesn't engender any love for Hillary Clinton. I think just what you said in the beginning is right. It makes women want to just stay home. And that's what he has to worry about.
There's no doubt in my mind that this will be a very low turnout, particularly west of the Mississippi. I think that, you know, if things don't change radically, they'll be able to call this election within the hour. All right, so 9 Eastern time, it'll be over. But there is that factor, Mr. Cusick, of the Republicans saying, look, I'm not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. I won't vote for anybody. There's going to be a lot of people walk in there going, I'm not going to vote for president. I'll vote for senator. I'll vote for Congress. I'm not voting for president.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of people are going to write in votes. So now, can Trump do this? Yes, he can still do this, but it really is the biggest night of his political life. He's never faced this. Remember, in the Republican primary, he led wire to wire, and now he's down, and he's down big now in the wake of this big controversy.
Well, we'll see what the polling says. Well, you say, can he do this? But let's be realistic. He's doing it now on the attack. He's going on the attack. He wouldn't have these women in a press conference if he wasn't going to use this tonight. He's going to use this. Ms. Linsky, last word.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what he would need to show to make that grand slam is some sort of contrition that we've never seen before from Trump. And that press conference he just held does not send any sort of signal that that element of contrition is there. So, you know,
well, we'll see in less than an hour whether he throws himself on the mercy of the court. Good debate, you guys. I really appreciate you coming on Sunday. Next on the rundown, Charles Krauthammer has some thoughts. Then Austin Goolsbee and Bob Woodward. Factor's coming right back. Continuing now with this pre-debate edition of The Factor, joining us from Washington, Charles Krauthammer. Now, on Bear's show a couple hours ago, you said that you believe that Donald Trump's going to go scorched earth in the debate. Interestingly enough, and I'm sure you didn't know this, about 45 minutes after you said that, Trump has a press conference with 4 women who allege that Bill Clinton abused them and Hillary Clinton enabled the abuse. So you're an oracle, but now the question is he going to carry that over to the debate and make that the central part of his presentation?
Of course he will. I mean, this press conference he's doing is the setup for it. That's where he's going. And the reason he's going there is that Donald Trump has no option. A normal politician would have 2 options. One is sincere contrition, avoid the subject, deflect, go on to things where you're strong, and exploit Hillary's revelations about her two-facedness that comes out of the revelations about her on Friday. But Donald Trump is not a normal politician. Two reasons. Number one, he cannot fake contrition well enough for it to be believable. It would have to be an act, and he's incapable of it. If you saw his televised apologies since the tape release, they look like a hostage tape until the part where he attacks the Clintons. And then you can see the fire in his eyes.
Now, wait, let me stop you there. As a psychiatrist, are you saying that Donald Trump is incapable of contrition?
Bill, I've told you this 50 times. I am a psychiatrist, but I do not play one on television. As a layman watching him, you watch the tape where he says, I apologize, and you know he's reading it. So that's number one, incapable of. He never has been contrite for a year and a half. He's not going to start now. But the second reason is even stronger, and it has to do with this particular offense. He feels he's being wronged. He feels he's being singled out. He feels there's a double standard. He feels this is what guys always do. And as he said himself, Bill Clinton has done worse on the golf course. So why am I being crucified? His attack today was on whom? It was on Republicans for being hypocrites. He is not going to apologize with any sincerity for an offense that he doesn't believe is an offense.
But you do expect him to at least mouth the words?
Yes.
Okay.
And then he will move on very quickly to attack.
And as I said in the first segment, it's the American people who will decide whether Donald Trump is destroyed or not after watching this evening. But there's something, and I brought this up on Friday when the story first broke. Bill Clinton, in all of the polls, he's a very popular politician to this day. He's in the 60s in some of the polls, favorability, all right? So it looks like the American public has forgiven him for his tawdry behavior based upon his performance in office. Would that be a correct assessment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Look, he routed the GOP in 98.
Okay.
While he was right in the middle of it.
So the American public at this juncture, all right, is willing to overlook these bad things, personal bad things that politicians do, for a greater political goal. So are we still there? Are we still in that category? Do you believe the American public is going to forgive Donald Trump?
Look, Bill Clinton is in a class by himself. He's one of the great political charmers of all time. So he had two things going for him. Number one, he had this charming personality, almost like, the lovable rogue. That was his image, and he played it very well. The second thing is he had a successful presidency. The country was experiencing
prosperous
peace, peace. This was after the Cold War, and prosperity. There was a tranquility in the world and at home unlike any since the end of the Second World War. And it was on his watch. You can attribute it to him or not. That doesn't matter. But that explains why he was given a pass. These were unique circumstances. For any other politician, a tape like this, that's doomsday.
Okay. So basically what you are saying then is that Trump is doomed because he is going to attack. All right, he is, in your opinion, not going to be contrite enough to have Americans say, oh, we really believe him or whatever. So he's not going to be able to come out of this tonight with any momentum.
Unless he's able to lure Hillary the way she lured him in the first debate by making her lose her cool. Is that possible? Very unlikely. She's experienced. She's done dozens of debates. She doesn't lose her cool in public, and that's not her style. But if he gets her into the mud, that's his only hope, is to do the scorched earth, the nuclear option. He's at DEFCON 3 right now. And if he can engage her in this, in a mud fight where they both come out with mud, then in a sense he wins, because at least he evens the playing field. I don't think that's likely, but if there's a strategy behind his anger, and he feels angry right now, that's the strategy.
30 seconds. Have you ever seen a presidential race this revolting?
No. I hope I never see another one.
And I'm with you right away. Charles Krauthammer. Directly ahead, Dr. Austin Goolsbee on whether Hillary Clinton also has vulnerabilities tonight. Then Bob Woodward has the inside story on the Trump audio tape reporting from the Washington Post. Moments away. Campaign 2016 segment tonight with the debate about 45 minutes away. Let's bring in Dr. Austin Goolsbee, former member of the Obama administration from Chicago. Okay, so it's all about Trump. Everybody's locked in on Trump. Any kind of audio, sex thing is going to override anything else. I mean, that's just the way of the world. However, I want your opinion on vulnerabilities from Hillary Clinton's side, and I'm just going to throw out one. The WikiLeaks leak quoted from her speeches to Fat Cat Wall Street people, and she says at one point, you know, I favor open trade and open borders. Now, a lot of people suspected that that's what she did, even though she says the opposite. Is something like that going to hurt her?
I don't think so. Certainly not in this debate, because she just needs to play. She doesn't even need to get a hit. She just needs to not be beamed by the pitch, and everything's going to be fine for her, because I think Donald Trump is going to be throwing, I would say the kitchen sink, but he's going to try to flush everything he can down the toilet and then throw the toilet at her. And in a context like that, I think, A, the fact that you got the government saying this is coming from the Russians, so it's probably cherry-picked and you don't know what the context was. And B, it's going to be Hillary Clinton helps rapists. Hillary Clinton's a criminal. I wouldn't be surprised if he brings up Vince Foster. If he's going to be yelling and unhinged like that, I don't think anything he says is going to stick, because he's going to try to throw it all.
Now, if you were advising Secretary Clinton tonight, and you told her, look, expect Donald Trump to bring up your husband's infidelities and the press conference where 4 women accused him of whatever. Expect that. Do you say to Hillary Clinton, what? How does she answer that?
Look, I don't totally know, but what I would say is, you know, when these scandals came up in the government, I think there were a lot of people who were very sympathetic to Hillary Clinton having to go through, be the suffering spouse as you're going through a kind of a scandal of that nature. And I just do not see how Donald Trump, and that was some years ago. I mean, clearly the social mores have changed since then, and I just don't see how Donald Trump saying somebody else is as bad as me.
All right, this could absolutely happen. This could absolutely happen. One of the folks, because, you know, questions are going to come from the folks.
Yes.
One of the folks says, hey, you know, you said some bad things about Paula Jones and Juanita Broderick and Kathleen Willey and Monica Lewinsky, and you used some terrible phrases to describe them. Do you regret that now? And how can you attack Donald Trump if you did these things to other women? That question could absolutely be asked. So how is she going to answer that?
I agree with that, but I think you have not really seen Hillary Clinton attacking Donald Trump on this.
No. But
she's letting the Republican Party attack.
The question that I just posed from some woman, you know, who's there.
Okay, say
so how does she answer that?
I think she would say some combination of, as you know, the Republican Party was attacking my husband in some of these cases, and I think she probably would express some regret. I mean, I have no doubt they will have a distilled line she says,
and it would be smart if if she said, look, I was emotional and I was wrong to do it, and I'm sorry I did it, and something like that. But that question,
but just remember, Bill, several of these women, when they made the accusations, they were being sponsored. Their legal cases were being paid for by the president's enemies.
That's why we don't do that. I mean, we don't we don't do it. We don't get into the swamp. We don't get into any of this on either side. On Friday, when that tape broke, I was on the air like a few minutes after it broke, live. And I had to make a decision about how much I use of the tape, because I didn't know whether it was edited. All right, I didn't know who put it out there. I mean, it was all kinds of stuff flying in. Now, I used a sampling of the tape to get, so my viewers on The Factor would know this was big. Okay? But I didn't, like the New York Times did. And that was shocking. I'm going to talk with Woodward about it in a moment. They put the F word and all these other words on the front page.
Word for word. Look,
that was outrageous.
The problem is, I understand. Look, you're good at thinking on your feet. It happens in the middle of your show. You can react to it and make a judgment. I think we have established, and you and I have talked before, I think Donald Trump is a guy with major impulse control problems. And I don't think that he's going to be able to contain himself. And if it looks like she says to him something of the effect of, oh, there you go again, Don. You know,
we'll see tonight.
A, it's B, it's C, it's D. He's
going to lose it. This is the best test ever, the most stringent test ever of Donald Trump's self-control or not tonight.
Yes.
Doctor, thanks. Always good to debate with you. Plenty more as The Factor moves along this evening. There is a lot of tension in St. Louis. As the debate comes closer, we'll take you out there for a special report. But next, reporting on that explosive audio tape. We'll talk with Bob Woodward about how the Washington Post did it. Upcoming. In the next segment tonight, the press reporting on the audio tape that has severely damaged Donald Trump. The New York Times, as mentioned, printed a bunch of four-letter words on its front page, reporting on the tape. That's extremely rare. The Washington Post, which broke the story, did not do that. However, there was one falsehood in the initial report that Trump had unilaterally attacked the Clinton marriage. We pointed that out on Friday. It was in response to being called a misogynist. Now, the Post reporter, David Farenthold, was given the audio, apparently by somebody associated with the NBC program Access Hollywood. Joining us now from Washington, the associate editor of the Washington Post, Bob Woodward. Were you involved with any of this?
No,
okay.
Not at all.
So I want to ask you journalism questions, because this parallels what you did somewhat in the Watergate investigation. In the article by Farenthold, he did not explain how he got the tape. Now, we don't expect him to say who gave it to him, because, you know, that's a confidential source. But it didn't really tell the reader how it got to him. Should he have?
Well, he has said now publicly that he's not sure of the motive of the person who gave it to him. I think key here is motive, and you always want to explore it. But in this case, Trump has acknowledged the authenticity of it, and I think at least so far it's turned out to be the most explosive story of the campaign. So there's no doubt it's a story. It's authentic. I think once it's established, or once David, is willing to say this is where it came from, or this is the type of person who gave it to me, that's a relevant footnote.
Yeah, but I want to point out again, he did not do that in the initial report. It was only in a follow-up report by a different reporter, Farhi, that came out. And I raised the question with you because you and Bernstein in your reporting were meticulous in saying we got this information from this kind of a person. You nicknamed the person Deep Throat. Okay? So did you told the reader where this was coming from and how it was evolving, along with reporting what you learned, which I think is important because you raised it. What is the motive is not as important as the tape. Obviously, the tape is the story that a presidential candidate would use this kind of vile language in speaking about women. That's the story. But there's another important story on whether this tape was held back for 2 days before a debate, whether NBC had anything to do with it. Those are all important things, are they not?
Yes, but they're not central. But back in the Watergate era, Carl Bernstein and I could work 2 or 3 weeks on a story. There was no internet. There was none of that impatience and speed driving things. And in this case, and David has said this publicly, that he got the tape, they authenticated that they were under lots of pressure. Somebody else was going to, I guess NBC itself, or...
Yeah, they were supposed to run it on Monday. But again, I thought the article was incomplete. I think that they could have, because certainly the reporter knows who gave it to him, how it got to him, and had to ask on a follow-up questions, why now? Were you instructed to give it to me? Did a major news organization, and I'm not implying that NBC did.
I wouldn't dwell on that at all. Look, every story is incomplete, particularly in this era where we will do 5 versions of a story over a 24-hour period.
Even less. Even less. Yeah. I mean, it's every hour being revised on the internet. Okay, I get your point. Now,
and so I think, what to point out here is there's been much criticism. The mainstream media is not really doing a very good job, and it's all, it's Politico and BuzzFeed and so forth. And if you look at the big stories in the campaign, this is probably number one. Number two is the New York Times and the part of Trump's tax returns which they got,
and that was leaked too. I mean, that was a leak too. So it's interesting. But I got to ask you this question because it's important. All right. So when you are seeing the overall reportage from your vantage point as an associate editor of the Washington Post, there's no doubt that the editorial parts of the Post and the New York Times hate Donald Trump. They despise him. They couldn't be worse toward him. Then you see the New York Times in reporting on the tape story on the front page. The front page used the F word and the P word when they never did that with Bill Clinton. Ever in a million years did they do that when they were covering the Lewinsky thing. But here it is, right in your face. So a person like me goes, that's intentional. They hate him so much, they violate their own standards so that everybody hates him along with the editorial board. Am I wrong?
Well, I think you kind of are. That, look, this tape has run on television almost endlessly, so anyone who wants to fill in the blanks on some of those words...
But why put it into the paper then? Just put the F and blank blank. Like, why not do that?
I don't know at the New York Times, but one of the things a couple of months ago I asked is, and it's your ultimate question here, have we been fair? Are we covering Hillary Clinton with the same aggressiveness that we've been covering Trump? And so I went back and got a bunch of stories. In fact, I'm going to send you 20 stories that the Post did about the Clinton speeches, the Clinton Foundation, foreign donations.
Look, I believe you because you're an honest man. Why then would they endorse her? Why?
Well, I don't know. I mean, hey, there really is a Chinese wall between
don't
the
endorse anybody.
Side.
Don't endorse anybody. But don't tell me she's the worst person on earth and then endorse her. I mean, that's what teased me off.
Look, that's for them. That's for them, and this is...
But you're them. You're part of them.
No, don't have anything to do with the editorial side. Believe me.
I believe
you. There are divisions on this, but this. Look, what's going on here? You had earlier on your show the issue of who is president, and a president needs to have moral authority.
I got it. Look, I got it. I'm not. Look,
we're on the road to erosion of moral authority with this tape.
I've got to go, but we have been absolutely fair on this broadcast. We've stayed out of the swamp. We give the facts and analysis based on the facts. And so do you. And we really appreciate you coming on tonight. Thank you. We come right back. We'll go out to St. Louis where there's high tension in the air. That after these messages.
Reilly Factor, the #1 cable news show for 16 years and counting.
Thanks for staying with us. And in the back of the book segment tonight, the second presidential debate will be upon us shortly, as you know. Joining us now from the debate site in St. Louis, Lisa Booth and Juan Williams. Lisa, I want to begin with you this evening. You had favored Donald Trump. Is that still the case?
I'm on the fence, Bill. I am. I'm on the fence. I mean, look, ultimately, I've got 29 days to make a decision here. But, I mean, this comment that he made is not in isolation. There's been a lot of comments that he has made similar, and I think there's going to be a lot of more comments that are forthcoming. That being said, Bill, I think the media is full of it, and I think the left is full of it, because you see the left, and they've embraced someone in Bill Clinton who's been accused of rape and sexual assault for nearly 20 years. You have the media that's been sitting on this information, sitting on the audio recording, that decides to release it now. I mean, they're all full of it.
All right. The Trump campaign is bringing in 4 women who believe that Bill Clinton abused them sexually. Do you object to that, Lisa?
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea for Donald Trump, because if you look at the polling, you look at the times where he's done well in this general election, it's when he's talking about the issues, when he's talking about the middle class, when he's talking about the fact that Hillary Clinton is out of touch with the middle class, which is something that she's even admitted herself, which we have found out with the WikiLeaks release of emails.
Right.
So that is when he's done best, and when he does the personal attacks, his numbers drop.
All right, so the 4 women are going to be in the audience in the debate, Juan, and I'm sure you don't think this is a good idea, correct?
No, I mean, I was listening to you and Lisa, and at the very top of the show, Bill, you talked about the idea that Trump has got to stop the bleeding or he's losing this election tonight. Yeah. And I thought, you know what, that's exactly right, but where's the bleeding? And the bleeding is in people like Lisa. Smart, educated white women who lean to the right or are Republican. Right now, the latest Fox poll had Hillary Clinton up plus 12 with women. Quinnipiac has her up plus 20. But when it comes to white women, they're running even. So that's something Trump can't have. Romney won white women by 14 points and still lost the election.
Why would having the 4 women in the audience alienate the women that Trump needs? Why would that alienate?
Because I think because remember what Lisa said, that when Bill Clinton was in the midst of this controversy, Hillary Clinton's numbers went up. It's Bill Clinton. But you can't say to the spouse, oh, you can't get angry at women who are messing around with your husband. You can't fight to save your family.
Well, all right. I mean, that's the defense. But, okay, I mean, again, it's going to be interesting. The folks are going to have to decide, obviously. All right, Lisa, I'm going to give you the last word here. If you're advising Donald Trump tonight, tell us what you tell him.
Well, first of all, that was the first time Juan's ever complimented me on this show. But, no, what Donald Trump needs...
It should be often.
Thank you. What Donald Trump needs to do tonight, he needs to talk about the future of this country. You've got 55% of Americans who want big changes in terms of politics, in terms of the economy. Hillary Clinton is the status quo. We know what we're going to get from Hillary Clinton. It's more of the same failure. He needs to talk about being a change agent.
All right, so you need to stay on policy. Thank you both. And that is it for this pre-debate edition of The Factor. Now, tomorrow, we're going to be live. Obviously, huge reaction all over the place. Krauthammer will be here. Goldberg will be here. We have a very, very good program for you. So we hope you go to BillO'Reilly.com for special analysis as well. Thanks for watching us tonight. I'm Bill O'Reilly, and please always remember the spin stops right here, because we're